Hey, what's up, everybody? I thought I would do the Wednesday Q&A here. So I just wanted to, first off, start like I typically do, answer a couple of questions that I've received previously to start it off and give people time to, these headphones look weird, don't they? Give people time to, that looks even weirder, it looks like I'm an agent, some kind of secret agent would be cool. So I'm going to answer two questions that I've taken beforehand, and if any questions come in after this, then I will be happy to answer them. All right, so I'm going to kind of focus today on like equipment type things. So I'll answer two different questions related to that. The first is, people who are trying to set up a home gym, usually obviously the biggest question that they typically have is like, what do I need? You know, if I want to, and of course with home gym, what I'm talking about is like somebody who's trying to get into like lifting weights and stuff, not like a cardio type setup or anything like that. I'm talking about like if they're trying to lift weights. And if that's the case, what I would recommend are the following equipment. So the absolute necessities, like the things that you really can't get by without if you're going to do a proper lifting routine, is some kind of rack, preferably a power rack that has like four uprights, and has, Jermaine, you can ask anything you want, within reason. And so this is a power rack, has like kind of the four uprights. I'm just going to show you mine. It's weird colors. I printed it painted it like this for my for my wife and girls. So this is an ideal power rack. Some brands are better than others. I'm not going to get into that, but it's got safeties that you can adjust to catch you if you're falling. It's got an ideal one, has a pull-up bar like this, something that is not like the square thing that's just super awkward to grip, but something like this so that you can eventually do pull-ups, chin-ups, hanging leg raises, things like that. Of course, it's got the adjustable hooks that you can take off, move around to adjust for different heights, different lifts, things like that. They don't all have this. Ideally, they'd have somewhere for you to store your plates like this on the side, so you don't have to like get a separate weight tree or just have them kind of sitting around, something like that. So this is the ideal, and you can find this kind of stuff on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or whatever really cheap. Another type would be something like this. This one it's not quite as sturdy. Like you'll notice like it shakes a little bit if you try to rock it, but this one's really good for squats, overhead presses, things like that. Pretty much anything you can do. And there's also another one that's another kind that's like it only has kind of the two uprights, and that one's good for squatting, and it's good for overhead presses and things like that. I'm a little hesitant to recommend that for bench press, but it can be done as long as you have safeties on it. So a rack like that, something like that would be ideal for you. Also, some people, if you're crafty like this, I'm not at all, but if you're crafty and can build like a wooden squat rack or something, that's awesome. You can do that. So just something like a rack. A rack is number one. The second thing is a bar, obviously a barbell. You can find cheap ones. If you have more money to spend on it, you can invest in a higher end one that's going to last you longer, things like that. If you're already, a lifter who's squatting heavy or doing some kind of heavy lifts, you're going to want to invest in a higher end one. If you're just getting started, honestly, like a cheap bar, you want an Olympic, just kind of search for Olympic barbell is kind of the one you want, and Olympic plates that match it. So the first thing is the rack. The second thing is the bar. And the third thing is going to be the plates, obviously. So like plates, what I tell people, like, sure, there are nicer plates than others out there. They're like bumper plates that, they don't like smash the ground if you drop it on deadlifts as bad, like they'll bounce a little bit. They're more comfortable to use in some ways, but they're also like way, way more expensive and they're harder to find used. Weights are just like, you put them on the bar, they literally serve as weight. You know what I mean? And so, like some of the cheaper ones, they might be off by a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal unless they're way off. But plates are just, I would for all this stuff, start with Craigslist, start with Facebook Marketplace. You can find some like steals on there for people whose like kid just went to college and they're just trying to get rid of this thing. For people who've just had this stuff sitting around forever, they just want to get rid of it. You know what I mean? There are all kind of stuff out there. There's all kind of stuff out there that you can find way cheap. So the rack, the bar, the plates, and then kind of the only other necessity that I would say is a bench. So obviously you're going to need a bench for bench press, which is one of the big four lifts: the squat, bench press, overhead press, and deadlift. You're going to want a bench. Ideally, I'll show you my favorite bench. I've got a few of them, but this is my favorite one. So ideally, and this is just my opinion, some people will recommend a bench just a sturdy, solid like slab, and then has the legs for flat bench. I do like to do some incline benching and things like this. This one's actually a Rep Fitness. This is one of the few things in this gym that I bought new just because I love this brand. So like, see here, I can lift this up and incline it. I can lay it back down flat. I can even raise the seat up a little bit because for like incline presses and things like that, you tend to slide down, and this kind of helps to prevent that a little bit. So some of that, I mean, a bench, you want a bench that's solid. You want a bench that's wide enough for your back. So if you're somebody who's if you're big, whatever kind of big you are, and you want to make sure you get a wide enough bench. You don't want to get some little narrow bench where you're trying to balance on it. You know what I mean? And another thing you want to look at on benches is the weight capacity. So if you are looking at a bench, don't just get one that looks wide enough. You want to look at the weight capacity. So if you look at a weight bench and the weight capacity is 300 pounds and you weigh 190, that bench is not going to work for you because you're pretty quickly going to be higher than that. Like I prefer like way, way higher capacity weight benches. So look at that. Think like if you're somewhere around 200 pounds and you are already benching over 100 pounds, I would at the bare minimum get like a 500, 600 capacity weight bench because you're going to need that. Like, especially if you're going to be consistent with this and push your weight up pretty quickly, you're going to regret getting a low capacity weight bench or not paying attention to it. And when people build home gyms, that's one of the most common mistakes I see. Somebody get some garbage weight bench that's just going to not be safe for them. You want the peace of mind to know that this thing is literally designed to hold me plus a lot of weight. You don't want to always, it might sound silly, but it's going to be in your head and you're going to be thinking, is this thing really going to hold this? And it'll hold you back on your bench press. So you want the rack, you want the bar, you want the weights, you want the bench. Those are the absolute necessities, but I'm going to throw in a few other things that are really, really helpful to have. The number one of those is going to be something to deadlift on, like a platform of some sort. Otherwise, depending on where you're deadlifting, you're going to crack your foundation of your house. If it's in the basement, you're going to crack the foundation of like your porch or your garage or whatever. Even if it's concrete, your heavy deadlifts, you will absolutely eventually crack your foundation. I've done it a couple of times, unfortunately. So you're going to want something to deadlift on. If you have the funds to spend on it, or if you're crafty, you can build your own like deadlift platform. Just Google that. It's not a really hard process. You want something. So like for me, I am not a crafty person. These are actually horse stall mats. So they're about an inch thick, and they're 4x6. So I have two of them side by side to give me plenty of room to deadlift on. This mat's just here for other stuff that's not part of it. But these are thick enough to cushion my between me dropping the bar. And you might say, like, I don't drop the bar, like I deadlift properly or whatever. If that's the case, you still can crack your foundation. Sometimes you're going to go too heavy. Even if you don't consider a drop, just setting it down can over time wear down the concrete or whatever it is you're deadlifting on. Be careful with that. Just get the horse stall mats or something. Just something to deadlift on is a good one. I wrote some other stuff down here. I wanted to make sure. And then just kind of some other things that are really nice to have. Chalk is really, really good to have. Not like kids go out and play chalk, but it's chalk, but like a block of chalk or something like that so that you can use that, like especially for the deadlifts, but it's also helpful on pretty much any other lifts just to reduce the friction between your skin, your hands, and the bar is going to help you to have a more secure grip, help you with that. Chalk is good. A pair of like Olympic dumbbells are good. I'll show you that too. So they just look like this, and I prefer this because I can load them however I want and not have to spend like $1 a pound on like a huge set of dumbbells. You know what I mean? Is it going to be like less fancy and maybe a little less stable? Yeah, but like not stable as in unsafe, but like it's going to be, you know, you're going to have some weird setups and stuff like that. If you look at some of my lifting videos, you'll see that like I might be bench pressing with some like crazy, like huge looking dumbbells, you know, because I'm doing that. But anyway, those are a good thing to have. A belt is a good thing to have, like a lifting belt that just helps you to, it helps a lot with the stabilization and, you know, keeping your breath out and all kind of different things. I won't go off on that rabbit trail too far, but it's a really good thing to have, a belt when you're lifting. Proper lifting shoes are good. There are clips for the bars are really good to hold the weights on. You can get away without those, but especially on deadlifts, it gets kind of weird without them. You can find those really cheap. A dip belt is good as well. So a regular lifting belt is just to help you push out against it and some other things. A dip belt is like a belt with a chain where you can actually hang weights off of it and do like weighted chin-ups or anything like weighted dips. That's why it's called a dip belt, things like that. And then let's see, was there anything else I wanted to mention here? One other thing that I would say is like something that you can do dips on. Like this is the one thing that I really want in my gym that I don't have yet. Some people call it a power tower. Some people call it a dip station. It's like just something where you can have horizontal bars coming out that you can grip and you can do like tricep and chest dips on. So like if you have all of that, you have like a solid gym. And just a bonus is if you can find a rack, like I found this one really cheap that already had this weight stack on it, that makes it possible for you to do like, you know, some tricep pull downs, put a longer bar on there and do lat pull downs, all kind of stuff like that. Those are all, I just said a lot of those are just bonuses though. Like the four things you really need are a rack, the weights, a bar, and a bench. So that's how I'd answer that question. If anybody has any other questions, let me know. I'm going to answer one more much shorter question, give time to give you time to ask any questions you might have, and then I'll shut it down. So the other question I get sometimes is like, if you don't want to go the home gym route and you don't want to lift weights, but you do want to do body weight exercises, like what kind of equipment should you get? And, you know, obviously like your, you know, body weight is pretty obvious. Like that's the primary equipment you need, which hopefully everybody has, but eventually you're going to get to a place, and even right off the bat, really, where a few things can help you. The number one piece of equipment I would recommend if you're on a body weight program is a pull-up bar of some sort, somewhere to do pull-ups. You can get those doorway ones for like $20. You can get, you know, if you already have somewhere like a swing set in your backyard or something like that, that you can pull up on, don't even worry about it. Just somewhere that you can pull up, because in my opinion, one of the biggest things that a good body weight program is lacking, if it's purely body weight, no equipment, is a good vertical pull movement or horizontal pull. Really, like pulling movements is one of the biggest drawbacks of a body weight program. So if you can get something like that, you can remedy that situation pretty well. Another piece of equipment that's really good is like bands. So like if you're not wanting to get into like dumbbells and stuff like that, you know, bands are really good. Not only are they good for stretching and things like that, but they're good for adding resistance. So like pretty much most workouts, most good body weight exercises, like the foundational ones that you really want, like squat variations, push-ups, things like that, you can make harder once you get to a certain point to get stronger with bands. And so like let's say you can already crank out like 15 push-ups, you might get a little stronger being able to do more push-ups. And you can go to harder variations, but for the most part, if you just keep doing more push-ups, you're going to just build muscular endurance and cardio, but you're not going to build a lot more strength. If you add some bands in, you can build some more strength with even a regular push-up. And then they also open up some other exercises that you can't even do, like banded deadlifts. You don't really have a proper, you don't really have a good deadlift option with body weight, but if you add bands, you can suddenly do like a band deadlift kind of thing. So I'd say the top two things for body weight routines would be somewhere to do pull-ups, and different kinds of pulls like that, and then also to get some bands to add some resistance. So if you want to keep it really minimal, those are the two things. And then if I had to add one more, it would be some kind of bench, or even if you can use your couch. Try not to choke. Something to elevate yourself so you can make some movements harder. All right, does anybody have any other questions before I wrap this up? Apparently I'm about to start choking anyway, so probably a good time. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. If you see this later and you have any questions, just comment them and I'll be happy to answer. Happy Wednesday.